Hello everyone. In today's video, we will be covering Python lists. So a list is just an object that can be used to store various other objects. These objects can be strings, numbers, or other lists. So let's get started. First, I'll show you how to create an empty list. So a list is actually created by using brackets, and you would assign it a name similar to variables. So first you would come up with a list name, and it's going to equal brackets. Now the brackets are what tell your computer that a list is being created. So without the brackets, your computer would not know that you are using a list. So if you want to print out the list, then you would simply just place the list name inside of the print function. So when you run it, you should see that your contents has nothing in it. Your list has nothing in it because we never placed anything in it. So whatever you have in your list is what you will see printed. So let's create a list of numbers. Alright, so numbers equals brackets, then just put your numbers. Now, when you're putting multiple objects in a list, you have to separate the objects in the list by commas. So, for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that is a simple list of numbers. So to print that out, print numbers. And when we print it out, we should see our list of numbers printed out to us. So those are some examples of how you can create lists. Now, getting into what you can do with lists. So let's just create a sample list of colors. So colors equals, red, black, orange, purple. Alright, so we have a list of colors. Now, let's say we want to add to the list. So if we want to add to a list, we would use what's called a append method. So the append method would go like this. First, you would state what your list is. So in our example, it's colors, followed by a period. Now, in certain IDEs, they will show you a list of various methods you can use for your list. So if you are using an IDE, if you do period, you may see what you see on my screen. But actually, the first thing I want to do is what's highlighted, append. Append is what is used to add to a list. So append followed by parentheses. Anytime you use a list method, you must follow it by parentheses. So we're using the append method, and append basically says we want to add this to the list. So you would place whatever you want to add to the list within append. And in this case, let's say we want to add yellow. So that would simply add yellow to the list. Let's say we want to add another one, so we'll say blue, and that will add it as well. So remember, if you want to see what's in your list, you have to print it. So print colors, and then we will hit run. And now you see we added yellow and blue to the end of our list. Now, if you want to add to a specific position, you could use insert. So here we do colors dot insert parentheses. Now, insert takes in two arguments or two parameters. The first one is going to be the actual number of the index position you want to add that item to in the list. The second one is going to be the actual item. So if you remember in Python, your counting starts at 0. And if we look at this, red is at 0, black is at 1, orange is at 2, purple is at 3, yellow is at 4, and blue is at 5. So let's say we wanted to add a color between red and black. So that would make it position 1 we need to add to. So we will say 1, comma, and then we will choose the color we want to add. So we'll say green. And then click enter and hit print colors to see if it added it between red and black. And there you have it. Green is now placed between red and black. So that is how you could insert something at a specific position. So if you wanted to add another one, you could simply say colors insert, and let's just choose a random number, 4, and then we'll do, let's say light blue. And now if we hit colors, you should see light blue, and there it is. So that is how you can add to a specific position. Now, let's say you want to remove a color. So the first thing you can do is the remove method. And the remove method, you would need to state exactly what item you're removing. So, and let's just choose an item. We'll say purple. So that would remove purple from the list. Now, we'll go ahead and print it. And colors. And hit run. And now you see purple is no longer in our list. But what happens if you enter in the wrong variable or the wrong item into the list? So in this case, Python is case sensitive. So if we were to say a capital purple and we would change this to black, then we should see an error, which we do. And here you see this line is underlined with red, meaning the error is there. And if we come down here, it tells us what's wrong. List.remove x, x is not in the list. Purple with a capital P is not in our list. Purple with a lowercase p is in our list. So we're getting an error because P is not capitalized. So if you were to change this to match exactly what it is in the list and click run again, then you see your issue is resolved. So when you are removing a color using the remove method, you have to ensure that the item that you're trying to remove is case sensitive, meaning it matches exactly how it appears in the list. So you also have the pop method. And pop will actually remove an item from the end of the list, the very last item. So remove.pop, and you could say print colors. And basically blue would be our last color. So once we run pop, you see blue is no longer there. So those are the two ways you can delete from a list. So now that you have that, let's say we want to access a item from the list or a specific color. So in this case, we would need to use slicing or indexing. So similar to how you would index in strings, you could simply take out a specific object from the list and store it in a variable. So we could say color1 equals, then you would say colors, and similar to a string, you follow that by the bracket. Now in this case, your computer knows it's not a list because we did not assign it to a variable. So when we put a object or another object such as colors, which is a list, in front of the brackets, it typically knows that you're trying to index or slice into that object. So in this case, it knows we're trying to slice or access a item in colors. So let's say we just want to get one color. As you know, it starts from 0 and goes to 1. So let's say we want to access red. That would be colors 0. And let's say color 2 is going to be equal to colors, let's say 3. And then once you have sliced it, you can print out to see what color is holding. And there you have it. And run. And then you see it printed out red and light blue. So that's how you could access individual items from the list. You can also access a range of items. So you would still use indexing. And for that example, we could say color list 1 is equal to colors. And then you put your starting index, so the color that you want to start at. So I'll say 1, and then I'll end it off on 4. And then I will print out colors list, and color list 1 will now hold a new list made from colors. So now I have 2 lists created. So now I have colors and I have color list 1. Both of these are 2 lists that hold colors. So that's how you can create another list from an existing list. So now that we've done that, I will go on to show you how to use more methods in lists. So first I will simply create a list. So I'll do numbers equals 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, now I have that. And let's say I want to see what methods we have. So remember, methods can be used by entering a period, and then you will see the different methods you have. So I'll start with count. Count is used to count how many items or how many times the item is in the list. So count so right now I'll put more 9s in there, and then we'll tell it to count 9. So this is going to tell us how many times 9 is in our list. And if you run it, it says 4. So we can do that again with 1, numbers.count, and let's see how many times 1 is in the list. And then you see it printed out 1. Now, notice that it does not print out the number of 9 anymore. It just prints 1. So if you want to see them both, you would have to encase them in print function. So here and here. And then you should see the count of both of the numbers. And there you go. So that's another example of a list method you can use. So let's check out another one. So they have sort, and then let's print out numbers to see if anything happens. And as you see, it just prints out our list as it is because technically it's already sorted. But let's say we went in here and added more numbers. So 3, and we'll add another big number. And if we click run now, then you see it added those 2 items that are in the middle to the end because they are bigger. So the list was sorted from smallest to largest. So that's if you're using numbers or have a list of numbers and you want to sort it. So there's also other methods you can use. And if you want to, let's say, for example, clear a list, clear will literally erase everything from the list. So if you did that, numbers clear, and then you print numbers, then you'll see numbers no longer has anything in the list. And now it's empty. So that's how you could also clear a list and make it empty to restart it. Right? Lastly, I'm going to show you how to input items into a list using the input function. So let's say we created a list of cities, and we want the user to enter in different cities. Oh, all right. And we will say city is equal to input enter a city. And that will ask our user to enter a city. Now, if we were to simply get that and then add it to the list, so that would be cities dot append city. And then we would want to print the list out to see it. Alright, now if I hit run, it asks us to enter a city. I'll say Miami, enter, and now Miami is in the list. So let's say we want to add more cities. You can copy these two lines and add it here. And in this case, there is an easier way to do it, which I haven't covered yet, but you could do or use a loop to do this. So here, I'll say Miami. Here, I'll say, let's see, New York. And now you see it added Miami and New York. So if you're ever curious about what you can do with the list, so let's say now that we have strings, can you sort a string list? Let's see. So we have cities dot sort and then print cities. Now, for this case, I'm going to just add another city here. Cities dot append put Chicago. Alright, now if I hit run, we'll enter in two cities. LA. Alright, and now you see that sort does sort a string list as well. So it will sort it from alphabetical order. So LA comes first, Miami comes, and then Chicago comes. Now, in this case, if you look, Miami was entered first, LA was entered, and then Chicago. So the sort didn't necessarily work as we thought it would as Chicago's last, but as you see, Chicago was inputted last. So, for example, if you're wondering how or why something works, we can take this, cut this out. So we'll say, take that out. We'll run this again, and we'll put Miami, and then we'll put LA. And there you see it did sort that list. So when we didn't append Chicago by itself, it seemed to work. If you do this again, we'll come down here, we'll say cities dot append, and we'll put Williamsburg and rhyme. We'll put LA, New York, and it shows you that it's sorted that way But if you run it again, let's say we put, let's change this to something like it land type. And let me rechange this, run it again. We'll say New York, Miami. And there you go. It did sort it correctly. So sometimes you might see issues where it doesn't sort, and sometimes you just need to restart your sort or readjust your list. But as you see, it did sort our list in alphabetical order. So those are different ways you can use list in Python. If you're curious about other methods out there, as I didn't cover them all, then you can simply look them up, research them. That'll give you something to do. So as you see, you can also copy lists. If you want to copy one list into another list, you can extend the list with a list, reverse a list, etc. So there's a lot more methods out there that you can use with your list, and I encourage you to go research lists and see what you can do on your own time with lists. So hopefully this video was very helpful for you. Hopefully it wasn't too confusing, and I'll see you in the next video.